Welcome to Arcadian. Did you ever feel like your D&D character was missing something? Like it lacked depth? Perhaps like they didn't integrate well with the story, almost as if they didn't really belong to the world? I have a solution for you that not only is incredibly easy to use, but will also delight your DM. So you have a backstory, I assume, and also the traits, bonds, ideals, and flaws that the player's handbook encourages you to create. If you don't, that would be the first step. But the fact is, even though these prompts are helpful for fleshing out a character, sometimes they're not enough. What you want is that immersion that only TTRPGs can provide, that feeling of interacting with a living, breathing world which not only you can engage with, but also reacts to your actions. But defining your character's personality, no matter how well it's done, will not contribute that much for their integration in the world. In other words, they will feel like well fleshed out characters but who don't belong there, almost like they were suddenly dropped in that campaign setting with little to no context. You know, like it probably happened. For many players, this isn't such a big issue. They're happy simply playing the game that the DM has in store for them. But for you hungry few who long for more, as you should, what you need to do is add connections and stakes to your characters. So let's start with definitions. What are connections? Very simple. Any mention in your backstory to something that exists in the campaign world can be considered a connection. That childhood friend of yours? That's a connection to an NPC. The land the character is from? Another connection, this time to a place. Their long-lost love, their family, the treasure they heard of one day, the guild they belonged to for a while, that piece of world lore they were fascinated about at the age of 10, that place they only saw in books but they wish to visit. As long as they're described in your backstory, they're all connections. But only if they're named. Why is this? Because giving it a name makes it real. Names have power. I made a video about it. It was meant for DMs, but if you feel curious, you can click in the eye up there and it will open it on a new tab for you. Let me contextualize. Imagine you describe in your backstory that your character once loved a woman who lived in your hometown, but her father forbade the marriage and you never saw her again. If you leave the backstory like that, it will do well to inform who your character is and what was their past. However, it will not ground the character in the world. A better way to write it would be describing that your character once loved a young human named Ophelia, who also lived in the town of Broadroad, but her father, Ulnos, forbade the marriage because he didn't want her daughter married to a tiefling. Aside from the tiefling detail, it looks the exact same backstory, right? So what's the difference? Names. The moment you name something, it becomes real in the game world. Before, it was just a random girl your character was interested in, a footnote in your backstory. But once you named her Ophelia, now she's a connection, your lost love from the town of Broadroad, who may or may not appear in future sessions now that you named her. Even better, since you also named the town of Broadroad, now you know who expects you there should you ever go back. By the way, if you're liking what you're hearing so far, I'd like to invite you to leave a like on the video. It will help a lot making sure it is recommended to other people. If you're feeling extra happy with it, you can even subscribe to the channel. That won't help at all with the algorithm, but it does make me happy watching that number grow. Thank you so much. And what about stakes? What do I mean with that? Put shortly, emotional weights behind every connection. Feelings, if you will, that you associate with them, even if just to yourself. If you want to be more skeptic, stakes are the strings you can attach to each piece of your backstory that the DM can later pull to annoy you or force you to take action. For example, Ophelia already has stakes. She is the lost love, which means there is affection towards her. If suddenly the town of Broadroad was assailed by a Gnoll warband, now your character will feel compelled to fight the creatures for Ophelia's safety, right? See where I'm going with this? But unknowingly, we also placed a weight on Ulnos, the father. He's the one who forbade our love. How do we feel about him? Resented? Angry? Guilty? What about the town itself? What memories do we hold of Broadroad? Does it matter for us? The reason why these simple changes matter so much to make your character more ingrained in the world are two. First, they force you to develop attachments to everything in your backstory. This may seem intuitive, but many players only write their backstories as informative notes to justify how their characters got to be where they are today and not where they can still go. I see this happen in tragic backstories more than anywhere else. People write a lot about the tragedy that befell their character and how traumatized they became, but forget to name who hurt them, for example, or who they lost. It's almost like Batman not knowing the identity of the man who killed his parents, rendering him unable to do anything about it. Even though for Batman that's kind of the point. The pitfalls of tragic backstories is a conversation for another day. I will link it in the eye up there or down below in the Underdark once it comes out. But the point is, describing a detailed and compelling backstory is good, but can be infinitely better if you make everything you describe there interactable, instead of simply a bunch of faceless people and nameless places to justify how your character got here. By giving them names and emotional weights, effectively turning them into stakes, not only they influenced your character's past, but they can still also play a role in their present and future. And this also ties in the second reason why connections and stakes matter so much. They're DM candy. I'm going to quote best boy Brandon Lee Mulligan again on how he sees backstories, as he himself revealed in the Exandrian GM Roundtable. His reaction whenever he receives long backstories is, "Oh, plot hooks you'll bite every time? Thank you." This is what you'll be giving your DM by naming every connection in your character sheet, and though not every DM likes incorporating character backstories in the campaign, most will be delighted when given material to do so. But the thing is, if or when the DM incorporates a connection of yours in the campaign, not only it will feel much more personal to you, but because you also placed a stake on it, you will feel a bigger drive to act on it, and your character will feel like they're part of the world, truly embroiled in all the shenanigans happening in the campaign. And that's it. That's how you can improve your character building with 2 simple tricks. Populate your backstory with loads of connections, be it people, locations, organizations, or whatever, never forgetting to name everything, and then place an emotional charge on them so that, in a way, you are making yourself intentionally vulnerable to your DM's taunts. If you'd like to hear more D&D advice for players, check out this playlist on my left. Since we talked about tragic backstories a bit, I'll also place that video here as soon as it comes out. Thank you all for watching. It truly makes me happy seeing these very amateurish videos of mine get so many positive responses. I'm the first Arcadian, and Joey doesn't share food.